What's happening, people? Welcome to Let's Be Real with me, Ben Hatchett. Today is a bit different. I know I was going to do a video about Kevin Lane and his unjustified recall, which I was going to word it. I was going to do it, but me and Kevin is a part of his team. Simone have thought it'd be best that I get Simone on the phone, as she knows the case in and out, and to explain what has happened and why it's happened. So, hi, Simone.
Hi, Ben. Good morning. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
You're more than welcome. So, obviously, I've just explained that, me and Kev decided it'd be best to get a member of his team to come on and explain the unjustified recall, what's happened, and the facts around the case. So, where would you want to start?
Sure. So, just for a bit of context for those that don't know, Kevin served over 20 years in prison for a murder which he didn't commit. So, as a result of that, Kevin is on a life licence. And I just wanted to say that for context. Kevin was released from his second recall on the 20th of April of this year. And he was asked to be put on a tag. So when Kevin was initially released from prison in 2015, after serving 20 years in prison, they didn't feel there was any need for him to have a tag. And for the 5 years that he was released, he had no police intelligence on him. He had no issues whatsoever, no problems. He just cracked on with life. When he's come home on the 20th of April, he was supposed to have a tag fitted that very same day. And for 4 days, his tag wasn't fitted. During those 4 days, Kevin made every effort to speak to probation, to let them know the tag hadn't been fitted. He didn't leave his approved premises during those 4 days, simply waiting for the tag to be fitted. And then 3 or 4 days later, the tag was eventually fitted. When the tag was fitted, it was explained to Kevin that due to the amount of prisoners that are tagged, there was a massive shortage. So you can imagine, Ben, that from the very beginning of him initially having his tag, there were issues that had already arisen.
From the beginning, straight from the beginning.
Straight from the beginning. So straight from the very first day, things kind of went pear-shaped, if you like. And then within the first 2 days of his tag being fitted, at 2 a.m, so with the tag you get a monitoring box. And at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, the monitoring box had rung.
Okay.
So Kevin's obviously ran downstairs to pick it up. And the gentleman on the phone had explained to Kevin that the tag is saying he's not at home.
That's strange.
And he's going up to check that Kevin's at home. So obviously Kevin said, of course I'm at home. You can see I'm at home as you call the house phone. And the gentleman apologised, and he basically said to Kevin, I'm sorry to inconvenience you. There must be an error with the system. So that was kind of in itself very weird, very odd, but do you know, you don't think anything of it?
Yeah.
You're so busy adjusting.
That's still strange, though. That's so strange.
It's completely strange. And I mean, at his next probation meeting, obviously the tag people didn't say anything to his probation, so it was kind of it was kind of like, it's just an error, don't worry about it. So obviously what happened was Kevin was with Gravesend probation, and he was being handed over to Guildford probation. So at the time, you need to imagine Kevin's got 2 different probation officers. So he's dealing not with 1 probation officer, with 2 probation officers. And during the course of him being home for almost 8 weeks, he's got 2 probation officers, and not both of them are present at all meetings. So his main probation officer was only present at 4 of the 8 meetings, and that was only via Zoom. So if Kevin's going into a probation meeting and telling the probation officer information, that's not necessarily getting relayed from one probation officer to
And the
another.
other, yeah.
So for a start, you've got to kind of think that's not really giving Kevin a fair chance.
No, absolutely not.
So you would, and especially with someone like Kevin, you would expect him to have consistency. You would expect him to have one probation officer who's like intensely working with him. So that in itself caused many issues. So Kevin was recalled for breaching his license. That's the kind of factor, if you like, of why he was recalled. When Kevin was initially released from prison in 2015, he was with Red Hill Probation Office. One of the very first addresses that Kevin had given to the probation office was his best friend Marcus Lemaire's address. And Marcus is based in Northwood, and there was absolutely no problem with that address. So the exclusion zone that Kevin had in 2015, which is Hertfordshire, is the exact same exclusion zone that he currently has. So for the 5 years of his initial release, Kevin visited that address in Northwood, Middlesex, with absolutely no issues or no problems whatsoever. Kevin's best friend is an epileptic, so for Kevin it's of great importance he can access his house just in case his friend has a fit or a seizure and he can't answer the phone. It just gives Kevin the opportunity to be able to go there. So obviously when Kevin's come home, where he understands Red Hill Probation noted it down on his file and they're aware of it, he didn't see it as a problem. Northwood is in Middlesex. It's nothing to do with Hertfordshire. So what had initially happened was Kevin has obviously gone to see his best friend. Anyone would want to go and see their best friend after not seeing them for some time.
Of course.
And Kevin's gone to visit him, and after a few days he receives a letter saying he's received his first breach for entering his exclusion zone. So Kevin was absolutely gobsmacked. He was astounded, thinking, what on earth is going on? So where he wanted to take all the correct measures, he immediately contacted his solicitor, and his solicitor emailed his probation officer the same day, explaining that Kevin has always gone to this address and for 5 years he's had no issues with it. He also sent a council website from Hertfordshire as well as Middlesex proving that the address Kevin went to was out of his exclusion zone, and proving this using council official formal websites. Within the email, the Kevin's solicitor had said, please respond as a matter of urgency and get this breach rescinded, because that breach should never have happened in the first place. Kevin's probation officer completely ignored the email. He didn't respond to it, so Kevin didn't know where he stood or what was going on. So Kevin didn't know, had it been rescinded? Was he allowed there? Was he not allowed there? What had changed? It just causes great confusion. You can't kind of, Ben, it's not fair to have a map. I'm sure at some point you're going to show the map. The map's got a border. You're not allowed inside the border.
If I get the map up now, I can show people now.
Precisely. So if you show them the border, you can see there's like a black line and it makes a full shape. Kevin cannot go anywhere within that shape. He can go anywhere on the outside of it, but not within the inside. If you see on the map, you'll be able to point to Pinner and to Northwood.
So what I'm showing now, Simone, is the pink is actually the black above line is actually the exclusion zone. The pink that's been highlighted by itself is actually where Kevin went, which is outside. If I just...
And can you see that clearly, Ben, within it?
Yeah, so as people can see now, what I'm showing now is obviously like the black, you know, the kind of like circle, which is circled out. So people can see that, and they see there the pink, is actually where Kevin Lane went, which is outside of the exclusion zone. I'm not sure if it's showing the best, but obviously I think highlighting it was relevant because you can see with the pink.
So what had happened after that, as you can see, there's two places he visited. So Northwood was the first place he visited. A couple of weeks later, one of Kevin's very close family friends had passed away. And they are based in Northwood. But as a result of that first breach and Kevin being extra cautious, he had to go and pay his condolences and respect to the family. He went to Pinner because Pinner's even further. Can you see it slightly further from Northwood? The second pink mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's still outside of the exclusion zone, correct?
Precisely, but it's even further away from Northwood. Where he was so worried to go anywhere near Northwood, he met them in Pinner Middlesex.
Yeah. Because Northwood's like right on the sort of edge of the exclusion zone, is that correct?
It's further, so the edge is right next to it.
Yeah, that's what I can see. I don't know if you can see.
And it's basically anywhere where that black line is or within it, you're not allowed in.
Yeah.
And Kevin, when he would drive, you're allowed to go through Hertfordshire through transit, so you're allowed just to drive it, but you're not allowed to stop.
Yeah.
Kevin would take the long route on the motorway to avoid even driving through Hertfordshire because that's how cautious he was. I mean, Ben, he took his licensing conditions so seriously. His second eldest son had travelled all the way from Liverpool to come down to see Kevin. And we arranged to meet them at, I think it was maybe 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening for dinner. And there was a delay, so we didn't end up meeting them till 9:30. And by 10 o'clock at night, so you can imagine they've travelled all that way. Within half an hour of meeting them, Kevin said, "I'm so sorry, we have to go." And on the way home, as we were driving home, Kevin was just so deflated in the car. And I was saying, "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" And he basically was explaining that my life has come to this, that I choose between either upsetting my son or going back to prison. I have to leave early. He said it only takes me 40 minutes to get home, but I'm leaving myself 2 hours because there's no way I want to breach my license in any shape, way or form.
Yeah.
That's how seriously he took his license. For like the first, not even the first, for 8 weeks of his sentence, he didn't go out of him being home. He didn't go out at all on weekends because he just didn't want to risk anything. He stayed at home. He had his head down. He was like immersed in charity work.
Yeah, the charity work is much relevant because I know when I spoke, especially on the podcast with the links and that as well, the charity work, Kev was really throwing himself into it. Like he really wanted to put some good back into the community.
Of course he did. I mean, for the probation officers, it's such a shame that they never built a rapport with Kevin. So the probation officer he was given from Gravesend was a new probation officer. So Kevin never got the time to get to know him, or he never got to know Kevin. And unfortunately, I think what happens with a lot of probation officers is they go on assumption. So do you know where you hear stories about a person?
Yeah.
That's the picture you're going to portray of them. So I don't know, you could maybe interpret it as Kevin never stood a chance because maybe they already painted a picture of him prior to meeting him. But Kevin was heavily involved with a charity called SWAT, and it's a homeless charity. And I mean, Kevin was there weekly. He would feed the homeless. He was in the process of setting up a hub, his own hub within West London, where he'd be feeding the homeless because there's quite a niche for it in Brentford. There's a lot of homeless people, and it was something he wanted to set up there. And I mean, that's just been put on pause. So where there were plans, people within the area were knowing a hub was being set up, it's just had to completely be put on pause because of Kevin being recalled. So it's not a case of like his family's affected, his loved ones are affected. Kevin had committed to things where he was trying to better his life and make an impact on society.
Yeah, and I fully support that. Like, obviously, since me and Kev, yourself, Will met at the podcast, it didn't end there. The rapport, the relationship, and you know, he was looking to get involved with some of the anti-knife stuff I'm looking to do, and you know, I just think he's an absolute stand-up guy, and that's why I wanted to do this, because I think it's completely unjustified.
No, of course. I mean, Ben, for someone like you, you've spent time in prison. When you spent time in prison, you realise how much time you've wasted.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kevin has spent almost half of his life in prison.
Yeah.
I don't know how he has, but he's come out. He's come out not bitter. He's come out not angry. He's not come out hating the world. He's come out with this real positive mindset that instead of me, you know, wanting to destroy the world, he wants to better it.
Yeah.
He wants to do good. And I just think, what on earth are they achieving by recalling him to prison when he was doing so much good outside?
It's achieving nothing. It's absolutely achieving nothing. That's the sad thing about it. And this is why probation, they need to start looking at who and why they're recalling people and around it, you know, people, especially this exclusion zone, especially being recalled for entering a seclusion zone where you haven't actually entered, is disgusting. Absolutely disgraceful.
So unfortunately, in the past, a prisoner would only get recalled via the courts. So previously it would be down to the court or magistrate to recall a prisoner. And when that happens, they've obviously got to take a long, hard look at evidence. They've got to take a long, hard look at the probation officer. They've got to take a long, hard look at the offender. And then they make a decision. So that has changed, and it's now down to the probation officer to recall the prisoner. So you've got to imagine, if you're on a licence and for whatever reason you do something, it's down to your probation officer to get you put back.
That's why I was recalled in 2010. I was recalled, you know, for a crime I didn't commit. Come to court, I didn't commit it. But probation at the time recalled me because they believed, you know.
But precisely, but had gone to court, same with Kevin, had Kevin's case gone to court, his solicitor's email was answered, they looked into the exclusion zone, they looked into the maps, Kevin wouldn't currently be in prison right now.
No,
because those breaches would have been non-existent. And it's just like, when I say about the probation officer not knowing the prisoner or offender properly, Ben, how are they able to make reports on prisoners they haven't even met or they don't know about? How are you able to make a full report? It's like, I've never in my life met you, Ben, and I've heard you're a prisoner, and I come along and I am in my own right to make a massive report on you, all based on assumptions that I have.
This is right. I know. I've been there. I've been on the receiving end. Yeah, I mean, I've been the person that make reports. You know, it's just a joke.
And it's not that. Let's like talk about the impact of recall on prisoners when they're wrongfully recalled. I sit and I think, how many prisoners must be self-harming, must be doing drugs in prison, must be thinking of suicide, depression. Do you know, to think, like, especially, you've done your time, right? Yeah, you've committed a crime, whatever. You've gone to prison, you've served your sentence, you come out, and then you're recalled for not doing anything wrong.
For not committing a crime.
For not committing a crime. You're going to think, what was the point in me trying to come out and better myself?
It's this difficult one. There was some comments. I put the video, the shout out to Kevin on TikTok, and there was one comment that stood out to me. There's like one guy said, I got recalled, I come out and he got a job. I don't know if you saw that comment, but he was trying to work, but he had the probation meetings every week and that as well, and he was trying to get to work. He's like, how can I rehabilitate? How can I become a member of the public again and work and earn and live a stable life when the probation are giving me awkward times for meetings in the working hours, you know? And I thought that was such a good point. Like, you know, how can we stop the recalls when maybe some of the conditions and the things that are being put in place are making it difficult. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm going with that?
Of course I do, Ben, but ultimately the duty of a probation officer is to support the offender.
It doesn't seem like support a lot of the time, though. I wouldn't say it is a support. It just seems more like, it's more they're just waiting to pounce. It's more like as soon as you strike, right? Yeah, it just seems to be a lot more like that operation. Like me, I'm fortunate this time that I think that my team has seen what I'm trying to do, and they're very supportive and very lenient around to come to meetings, and I'm fortunate. But it just shows, and I say this is a good point, because by them giving me the leniency and letting me, working with me and actually supporting me, look at the good I've come out and actually doing. Could you imagine if Kev had that team around him as well? The good he'd be doing,
It's of course, but you've also got to look at it. Do you know when Kevin would be at probation meetings, I would kind of be like, how did it go? How was it? Did you talk about your charity? Did you talk about this? And he'd just be like, no, he didn't care. The probation officer didn't have no interest, didn't care. Do you know what all of his meetings were based on? And it is actually heart-wrenching. All of his meetings were based on them basically saying no. So Kevin's best friends were getting married in Newcastle and they were coming down. So do you know where Kevin has to request any overnight stays, he has to request late nights.
Yeah.
So all of the basis of his meetings, it wasn't kind of like, how is your family life? How is work going? What are you doing to make a difference in life? Is there anything you would like to do? Kevin, on his own accord, it's something he does just to keep his mind healthy, mind strong. He seeked his own therapy. He was doing charity. He was doing so many good things, and none of these were highlighted or brought up within his probation meetings. None of them. And you've got to think, right, when an offender comes out, they want to build, they want to start over, and they're recalled, they are going to feel aggravated towards the system. They are going to have a bad taste in their mouth towards probation. And it's like probation do not do themselves any favours in the way they behave with offenders.
No, they don't. You're absolutely right. They don't. So, Simone, moving forward now, what's the situation now and moving forward?
So, basically, based on what had happened, Kevin's solicitor requested an immediate release, an executive release, and it's obviously he's not committed a criminal offence, it's a breach, so it should have been dealt with after 28 days.
Yeah.
So on the 16th of July, his solicitor had requested the executive release. It should be a paper hearing with one parole board member. Till today, it still hasn't been addressed, dealt with, done. So it's just obviously keep Kevin in, waiting game. Because it has taken so long, his solicitors now, I think it's under Article 5. If they don't give any response or reply, it will go down to court. Okay. So moving forward, we're hoping he will come out. I mean, it's completely unjust that he has been recalled. It's completely unfair. On the Ministry of Justice Offender Management Statistics Bulletin, it said then that between October to December 2019, 6,789 prisoners got recalled on licence. So nearly 7,000 prisoners in 3 months were recalled to prison.
It's crazy.
So the prison population recalled to custody increased by 24% over the year leading to the 31st of March 2020. And you've got to imagine the effect on the economy when just as a basic, it costs £30,000 to £35,000 to keep a prisoner in prison per year. And that's not even talking about, the Cat A's. So you're looking at the massive increase in people being recalled.
Where else could that money be going?
The effect it's having on the economy. Is it necessary?
No, of course not. Well, that money going in to put You know, it could be going into getting prisoners courses and jobs. You know what I mean? It could be going into so much more, man, just recall. Maybe, you know, sometimes recall is justified, but, you know, 100% in this case, the recall is absolutely ridiculous. It's unjustified. You know, and that's why we need to do this video. That's why we need to create awareness, you know.
It's said on the prison reform website that England and Wales send more people to prison each year than anywhere else in Western Europe. There was 140,000 admissions into prison in England and Wales in 2017. Does that not say it all?
It does. It does. I might even do a separate video about this, you know, more awareness. You know, it's not right. It ain't right, man. Because I know that's what triggered me off. You know, I ended up getting an indefinite sentence off a recall. A recall that was unjust, like, for a crime I didn't commit, you know? Just because it was literally wrong place, wrong time, you know? And then obviously went away. I did what I did and then caught an indefinite sentence.
Like 2 days ago, Kevin's already spent 2 months in prison from being recalled. He's already spent 2 months in there. 2 months of his life. He's never ever going to get back. And I mean, how much longer are they going to keep him in there? What he's proving himself to society. He's come out. He's proving himself. He's disciplined. He's structured. He's got routine. He's not a bane on society. He doesn't take from society. He gives.
Yeah, no, I absolutely support that.
Makes an impact. So
a positive impact.
Why are they just... I have no idea when they are just going to let Kevin out and they're just going to let Kevin breathe. He deserves it now. No. He really deserves it, because it's getting to a stage now where it's just... I think it's inhumane, and I think that's a fair word to use, because no human deserves to be treated in this way.
No, it is crazy and it ain't right. It's not right, Simone, and hopefully... You know, hopefully this does get sorted as soon as possible, not waiting months down the line, you know. Kevin, this is sad, because I'm actually lost for... I don't, when I do the interviews and that, I don't get lost for words. I'm actually kind of lost, because I met Kev and I built a rapport with Kev. I speak with Kev, and it hurts, because I've been... Do you get what I mean? So actually...
Of course it does.
It does. I mean, I'm actually lost for words.
People forget Kevin's got family. Kevin's got children. Do you know, I visited Kevin, I've been visiting him throughout this recall, and on one of the visits, his second eldest son had come with me. And I think this was maybe the third time I've seen him since he's been recalled. And we were just queuing up outside, Ben. And I was saying, it's a normal prison. I've never been to a prison before. And I was explaining, like, whoa, the security is so intense. It's such a process, like, it's quite daunting. Do you know, if you've never been to a prison, it's quite scary having to go on a visit and they search you and scan you and do all of the stuff. And do you know, his second eldest son, he said to me, "This is nothing, Simone." He goes, "This is absolutely nothing." Do you know, when I was 5 years old, I remember going to prison to see my dad, and my dad was chained to 2 other prison officers either side. He had a massive glass wall in front of me. I couldn't see him, I couldn't touch him, I couldn't feel him, I wasn't allowed to go close to him. Imagine a 5-year-old boy having to see that, and imagine what Kevin has had to go through seeing his son on a visit like that.
Yeah, it's not nice.
Do you know what I mean? No one thinks about the implications or the effect it has.
No, of course.
Like, Kevin has a 3-year-old son. Do you know how hard that is? It's just, I don't know, all we can do is hope and pray. I say to Kevin all the time, the truth always prevails and the truth always wins. All the evidence we have presented, I mean, I sent you the complaint letter, I sent you all the events pertaining to his recall.
What could people go over to see all this? Because, you know, I haven't got my camera, the edit and all that to pull it up with the video, which as much I would love to. You know, I'm still adjusting. I can't do all that myself at the minute.
No, of course.
Is there where can people? What links could I put in the description before we sum this up? What links can I put in the description box for people to look more into the case or to come over and support? what could we? Is there links and that we can put in the description box,
So
man?
if people head over to the Fitted Up and Fighting Back website, which is www.fittedupandfightingback.co.uk, they can get all the information on there. But what I would like to say to anyone who is listening to this recording, if you do feel something, if you feel moved by it, if you feel saddened by it, if you feel angered by it, if you feel any sort of emotion, please don't just sit on the emotion. Do something about it. Share Kevin's story.
Yeah.
Read his book. Educate yourself. Because do you know what? This could happen to anyone.
When I finished, I was going to say this, and why people, when it's not happening to themselves or when it's happening to someone they know, it's easy not to sort of take it to heart. But try and empathise. Try and I know Kev very well. Try and it could be your dad, it could be your brother, it could be your son, it could be your uncle, it could be someone close to you, and they could be. He got stitched up. He got stitched up a very long time ago. And he's had to do it, and he's getting stitched up again. So please, people, do try and empathise. Don't just listen to it for entertainment and switch off. Do try and empathise and do try and get involved in any way you can. It's not right, and you wouldn't like it with yourself or with someone you cared about. And this is a human being, and it's a lovely human being, and we do need to still try and support. Even if it's just to share, please, people, share, create awareness, and let's support Kev, and let's get Kev out of this fucking system.
Ben, thank you so much for
talking
to me
Simone.
today. Honestly, and thank you for making a difference. Honestly, it's good to have people like you, role models like you out there. It's good for our youth and for future generations. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone. Well, I'm going to finish this, Simone. I'll give you a call.
Sure, Ben. Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Bye.
Says people, that's my member of Kevin A's team. And it was exactly what I said. I'm not going to repeat it again, but it's true. Try and think of that, and anything you can do, you feel you can do, we want to try and get involved, head over to the website. I'm going to put the link in the description box. I'm actually quite emotional because it is sad, and I've been on receiving end of a recall. It could be one of your members of family, it could be yourself. So please, people, get behind. Please support. The link's in the description box. Take care.